Welcome to Tales on the Towpath, the podcast where every mile tells a story.
We're two runners who spend a lot of time out here on the C&O Canal towpath, talking about training, racing, and everything that happens between the miles.
From early morning runs to the stories that keep us moving.
This is where endurance meets inspiration, one step, one tail at a time.
So lace up and join us on the path, because every trail has a story, and this one's ours.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Adam Lowe.
And I'm Chris Earl.
And I'm Katie Lowe.
Hey guys, I am really excited for tonight's episode. We have a very special guest that we met for the first time back in November at Fire on the Mountain. Before the race started, I don't think any of us had any idea what we were about to witness. But when our guest came flying back into camp, I'm pretty sure we all knew we had just met someone who was going to do big things in the ultra world. She is a member of the ASICS Sound Mind, Sound Body team and an ambassador for the running kind. It is my pleasure to welcome Miss Maeve Thistel to hang out with us tonight on Tales on the Towpath. Welcome, Maeve.
Hi, it's so great to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, of course.
Chris, before you jump into questions, I just thought about something. So I want to be clear that the only reason you were at the finish line of Fire on the Mountain was because you ran the 25K and Maeve ran the 50K. If you were in the 50K, you still would have been on the Billy Goat Trail somewhere.
Yeah, you didn't have to go there, man. That was mean. You're not wrong, but it was mean. So, hey, Maeve, why don't we start by you telling our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Oh, absolutely. Well, my name is Maeve and I'm 25 years old. I'm originally from Maryland. I live in Pennsylvania now, and I'm very new to trail running. It is something that I am currently the only way I can describe it is like a healthy obsession. It is what I love to do on the weekends, and I really do treat it like a part-time job. I have my master's in human clinical nutrition. I am a nutritionist. I work primarily with female athletes. It's a niche space that does not have the attention it deserves. So my goal is to fill that void. It's something I'm very passionate about. And so I do a lot of work in nutrition. I do a lot of work in athletics, but the trails have my heart. So actually, Fire on the Mountain was one of the first trail races I ever did. Before that, I did one trail 50K. And at that time, I knew absolutely nothing about trails. I did actually wear trail shoes for that one. For Fire on the Mountain, I did not. which was not the best decision, but it worked out. But running is one of my favorite things to do. I wake up at 4:45 most mornings just to get my run in because it's that important. And I think that for most runners, when they think about like who they are as a person or they're trying to find themselves, it really comes back to running. So every year that I progress in my running, I'm a different runner, but I'm also a different person. It's a little bit about me and it's a little bit about why I run.
I remember that story from when you crossed the finish line at Fire on the Mountain after we had sat and talked, or just kind of talked a little bit. And at the end, and I looked down and saw your shoes, and I was like, certainly she's already changed. There's no way she ran Fire on the Mountain in those road shoes, but sure enough, you had. So I was shocked to see that. So before you got into ultra running or running, was there a sport that you played in high school or college or anything like that?
Yeah, so I was quite the introvert. I did everything possible not to play team sports. And that meant that I ended up going to circus school. I was in circus school for 10 years at a very small circus school in Baltimore City. I specialized in the lyra, which is basically it's a metal hoop and it's part of aerial. So aerial, most people think of the silks. I did that as well. So that was most of my evenings in high school. I was on the cross country team. We were not very good. I was the best on the team, which was awesome, but it was not a real accomplishment. I don't think I did a single real workout when I was in high school on the cross country team. We just ran for fun, which actually looking back was super healthy and was wonderful for me. I did have to take time off because I did struggle with an eating disorder in high school. Part of the reason why I do the work that I do now. And during that time, I actually had to reevaluate my relationship to exercise and my relationship to sport, which I do attribute my very healthy relationship I have now to movement to that time. The sports I do now, the way I feel for them, it's all because I have a love for the sport. It no longer controls my life. And so in high school, you would see me doing all the circus stuff. I would run with the cross country team. I ice skated a bit here and there, literally anything, anything. So I did not have to play a team sport and interact with other people.
This is why we can't ask questions in order though, because now I have questions about the circus, right? So like,
Yeah.
did you travel? Did you like travel like
Okay.
circus? Like, or
No, no, I did not travel. It was all local. I actually originally discovered it because I went to the gym with my dad, started going to the gym with my dad in second grade. And there was this woman there, and I would see her doing these crazy things. And it turns out that she was an aerial dancer. She did not coach at the time. She did after this because I went up to her with my dad and I was like, "Well, you teach me how to do it." And so she was like, "Oh, well, I hadn't thought about that." And that's how I started. I was 8 years old. It's really hard on your body. It's really, really hard on your body. So once I graduated from high school, I really transitioned and I discovered trail running while I was in college. It was something that I could do on the weekends. I went to Dickinson College, so we're right near the Appalachian Trail. And that meant that I had this incredible access to these trail systems that I'd never seen before. And I started to run on them and I realized, wow, it's really fun to run and then you get to stop, you get to eat jelly beans, like get to boulder if you want to. And it was a whole new multidisciplinary sport to me, and so I did it largely by myself. There were a few runners in the area that I would meet, and they would invite me along. I ran with a local run club for a little bit there, but again, it was all on my own. And it really wasn't even until after college that I realized that I was actually maybe okay at running, and that if I put a little bit more time into it, I might actually see some real progress.
So you mentioned that Fire on the Mountain was one of your first trail races and that you had done 150K trail race prior to that. But did you just jump straight into trail? Did you do any road races? What was like, how did that all get started? And how did you jump into a 50K? Did you build your way up to that? Or was it just all in on the ultra right away?
Yes, so I started trail racing because I cannot stand carbon plated shoes, which I recognize is not a popular opinion. I also recognize that these days you have a lot of professional trail athletes running in carbon plated shoes, which I think is insane. But great. Not for me. They hurt my feet. In road racing, you have to wear carbon plated shoes to be competitive, and that's really tough. I did start with a couple half marathons, road half marathons, and they were fine. I enjoyed them, I guess, but they're brutal. You're going really, really fast. My half marathon times, looking back, they're much slower than what I would run today. But at the time, it just felt like the level of effort I had to put in not to get injured was so high and the risk wasn't worth the reward. Whereas in trail running, if I was going to get injured, it's because I fell on my face. It's not because I have a stress fracture, hopefully, or some type of tendon issue. I really struggled with some issues in my feet with extensor tendonitis. It completely went away when I started to trail run. So with this 50K, it was the On the Rocks 50K was my first 50K. I signed up kind of last minute, which is what I do with all races. And I had no idea what to expect. It's 3 loops that are 10 miles and more elevation gain than I had ever seen in my life. I don't think I'd really run up a hill before this race. I think it's like 4,500 feet. I could be wrong about that. Maybe it's a little bit more. To me, that's nothing now, but at the time, it was just unheard of. I got very lost, which is hard to do on a looped course, but I still managed to do that. And I ran an extra 5K, which put me off from the women's record, which afterwards really bothered me because I was first female at that race. And I was like, I was so close. If I had not run this extra 5K, I would have been there. So obviously I had to go back to another trail race and try again.
So before I let Adam jump in here with the next question, Maeve, I don't know if you noticed, and I know our listeners couldn't see it, but when you said you don't like carbon plated shoes, I wish people could have seen the look on Adam's face. He went from staring off into nothing to like, what?
Well, they have their place, right? Like, who
Exactly.
doesn't love the cushiony bounce of I guess Maeve doesn't, right? But like,
Babe.
yeah, that's who, right? But yeah, I find them to be amazing for marathons and half marathons, but preference, I
Now,
guess.
here's the thing is I like to feel the ground and I like to feel stable. And for me, I tend to not feel stable in carbon plated shoes. I also pronate pretty badly, which is why. So you'll see, looking back at the Fire on the Mountain race, I chose to wear a stability shoe, which meant I was going to wear a road shoe. But I chose that because I knew I'd have more stability in that than really anything else. And it worked out. It was the GT 2000 by Asics, and it worked really well for my body, always has. And so that was like, well, okay, I'm just gonna do that. I have raced in carbon plated shoes and it's just tough. And I haven't found that it has increased my time enough for it to be worth it. Like my all my workouts, I never do a workout in a carbon plated shoe. At most I'll do nylon plated shoes. And I will do lots of workouts where I'm hitting my goal half marathon pace. And I do that because I want to be able to reach those paces in a shoe where my physiology is the main driver of action. And so if I can only really hit those paces when I'm in a carbon plated shoe, to me, it doesn't give me that sense of confidence I'm looking for. I want to be able to show up on race day having forgotten my primary pair of shoes and still be able to race with confidence.
That I don't I can't even ask the next question now. I want none of that. I just want the carbon plated shoes. No,
That's
that's
fair.
awesome. Hey, so like Chris started out the podcast with, so we first met you at Fire on the Mountain, and Katie and I are the race directors of that race. So it was awesome to have you there. And then, like I mentioned, Chris still would have been out on the course if he were running the 50K. But Chris, I'm gonna throw myself under the bus a little bit here. So to tell everybody how awesome her performance was that day, she was fourth overall last year with a time of 5:15. In 2018, when I got second place, I ran 5:28. And then the next year, I think in 2019, I ran 5:19. So she would have beat me both of those years that I got second. Now I will like take myself out from under the bus. My PR there is 4:56. So Maeve, you got to come back one more year and go 4:55 so you can have beat me time wise. But you now have the women's course record, which was held by Danny Mason, who was the only woman to go sub 5:30 before you did it. She ran 5:29 back in the first year, so 2010. And at that time, the course was a point to point, and arguably it was much easier. So you broke her all-time course record on a harder course. So that all with all that being said, I think there was a question in there. Oh yeah, yeah. So my question is, when you lined up at the start line, did you know the course record and was that something you were going after, or did you just run as hard as you could and it just happened?
No, I didn't know anything. I never look beforehand when I go to race. I don't look at the course map. I don't look at the stats. I just go, I just like to experience the course, you know, when there's a hill, there's a hill. There's always going to be a hill. I always know there's going to be elevation. I knew that this particular race was challenging. I just didn't really know the ways in which it was challenging. And I was like, well, the worst thing that happens is I DNF. That's not really not that bad. Then I come back and I do it again, or I, you know, move on and try something else. I really don't mind being blind when it comes to races. I am I find that too much information is not beneficial for me. So I just went in, I ran. I knew what would happen in the beginning, which is every single time I race, it's me at the front. Maybe there's another woman, typically no. For any downhill that there is in the beginning, I'm going to feel a lot of men behind me and it's going to really stress me out. So I just move over and I let them all pass because they will go way, way ahead. And I know I will catch them eventually, most of them, when we get to a hill, which is exactly what happened. And that's fine. I walk when I have to, I run when I can. I really, really try to respect the terrain I'm on. So if I look at an incline, I'm like, will it bite me later to run up this now? Then I just will power hike it. For this particular race, I think there were only a few times where I really had to walk versus with a later 50K that I did more recently. There was a lot of walking in that one. This one, it was actually quite runnable, especially in the middle section, and so I just did my thing. I did think that I was lost a lot, and I'm not good at navigating, so that stressed me out. I also no one obviously, our listeners can't see me. I'm 5 feet with my shoes on, so I'm a pretty small person. With my pack on, which I'd never worn before, so that was also an experiment, I learned that the bottles in the front of my pack were too long, so they would just hit me in the face. So I just had to ditch those a few minutes before the race started. I was like, well, I know that there'll be Coca-Cola or something along the way, which is what I relied on. So that was that's my approach in general to most races. This one, yeah, I had no idea. I had no information. I just hoped I was on the right trail. That was my hope. And really, for the majority of the middle section of the race, I did not know. I relied on an aid station here and there, and it's like, "Oh, there's an aid station. I'm doing it correctly." Yeah.
Did you know to follow the green trail in that middle section? Like,
Yes, I did know that. But,
okay.
me and navigation, you can tell me the trail to be on. I will still somehow find a way to be on the wrong trail. With, a more recent race I did, I had to navigate myself for a lot of it using my watch. I'd never used that feature before. There'd also been some people who had messed with the trail markings, which was very frustrating. And so I got very lost many, many times. Learned a lot about navigation. I think I'm much stronger now. So I know when I come back next year, which I will, I'm quite confident I will not get lost. That will not be what happens.
Yeah, well, in your defense, I found the green markings on the green trail to be kind of hard to see too, depending on the lighting in different areas. So I think that's reasonable. I mean, Adam, you just know the course so well, I think.
Well, if you
Y-
remember, Luke marked it, and Mike and Megan said they picked up like 600 flags. So maybe we need to put 700 out.
or maybe not 500 in the first mile.
That is probably the problem.
Or I could just pay attention. I mean, that's also part of it, is I get kind of like la-di-da-di-da when I'm running. I'm like, "Oh."
So, Maeve, back in May, one Saturday morning in particular, my social media feed just started blowing up, and every post seemed to be about you. And you were running a 50K called the Come On Armageddon, I think is what it was
Yes.
called. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that race, what the conditions were like, and take our listeners through how you finished?
Yeah, the conditions were terrible. It was it was a really amazing race in the worst possible conditions for me as a runner. I really don't like heat at all, ever. And it was the first truly hot day. Just a few days prior, it had been in the 50s, I think even the 40s. And then this day, it was 85 degrees with a lot of exposure. So, for listeners who don't know about this course, the Come On Armageddon course is a highly technical trail race. It's a 50K. It's in New Jersey, close to New York, and it's hosted by the Running Kind. This particular trail is very convoluted. In fact, this entire race, you're constantly going back between, you're intersecting with different trails, which is why you're actually required to have certain gear on you and you're required to have the course map downloaded onto your device. I assumed I'd be running with someone. So I was like, well, it won't matter. I'll have someone to get lost with. which means I'll have someone to get unlost with. From the start of the race, I was alone. I went out not overly hard. The first, I would say, maybe half mile or so is asphalt because it's actually part of this old Warner Brothers space. It's really, really cool. It's worth visiting. And so I just went out pretty fast, and then I turned onto the trail and I just kept going. I was like, okay, well, I'm sure someone's right behind me. And I kept going, kept going. I got to the first aid station, got my beverage, kept going, didn't know who was behind me, what my place was. And that was the basically the whole race. I never once ran with another person. I was alone for the whole race. Got lost many times. If anyone has seen photos of me at the end, I'm covered in blood. That's a mix of falling and getting multiple nosebleeds. There was a great moment on this course because it's so beautiful. You summit multiple times. So there's a lot of exposure. There's a lot of fifth class climbing, definitely some real bouldering that you have to do. Absurd grades. My quads were shot by mile 5 just from the downhills alone. It wasn't the uphill, it was the downhill that really got me. And so I was like, oh man, this is going to be tough. But there was this great moment where I tripped and I fell on my face and I got this really bad nosebleed. So I'm like choking on my own blood. And also my foot kind of hurts. It's stuck under a rock and I'm laying there on the ground. I was like, oh man, it's so nice to lay down. I could just hang out here for the rest of the race. It was so great. And then I got up and I kept going. I definitely struggled with the heat. I was dizzy from some blood loss, and the heat was making it worse. I was severely dehydrated for the majority of this race. I had water with me, but it was not enough. It did not cut it. And there were ample aid stations, but it was just with the heat and the effort, it just was not enough for me. I needed to bring more stuff with me. And that was the lack of preparation on my part, which is classic. If anyone knows me as a runner, I tell everyone else what to do in terms of hydration and nutrition. I do great with that, but I do not take my own advice. And so I'm going along on this race. And when I finished the race, I crossed the finish line, having run the entire race by myself, and people are congratulating me, and it is a wonderful feeling. And I've never finished first overall. I've never beat the men before, which is it was my Rachel Entrekin moment. I mean, she said, "Why not me?" At Cocodona. She was like, "Why not me?" And I thought about that this whole race. I was like, you know what? Why not me? It turns out that I increased my lead at every aid station. So I had some people mention to me the times between the gap between me and the next runner. And I believe first aid station, it was 7 minutes. Second, it was 15. Third aid station, I believe it was a half an hour. Fourth aid station, I don't know what it was. By the time that I got back to camp, we waited over an hour for second place to finish. And that was a really interesting experience for me because I've never performed like that before. I do not consider myself an exceptional runner. I think I put in the work and I really love this sport. But it was a great day for me. At no point during the race though did I think, wow, I'm doing such a good job. I did a lot of walking, a lot of power hiking. It was very, very hot. Many times I was like, why did decide to do this? I didn't have to do this. I could be at home on my couch. But then the moment I would think about being home on my couch, that would remind me why I'm here. It was a fantastic race. It was really exciting. Over 7,000 feet of elevation gain in 30 miles. Really, really tough. Afterwards, took a day or two off and then got back to it. Those were a couple very, very sore days, though.
Well, I can tell you that the people who were posting on social media that day, they could tell you were going to win. I mean, they had you nailed as the winner like halfway through, and then it wasn't how much are you going to beat the it wasn't are you going to beat the course record, it was how much are you going to beat it by, and it was just so much fun to watch. Normally I don't find myself, going back to Instagram to follow up on a post that I had seen earlier in the day, but I certainly was that day. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know what the course record was before, but I just looked it up and Maeve ran 6:34. Second place ran 7:58 and third was 8:06. So there was only two people that broke 8 hours that day. And the second or the first guy that did it, Maeve beat him by, my math is bad, but an hour and 24 minutes. You probably could have got halfway back home before he finished. That's an
Yeah.
unbelievable gap.
I did go shower, which was really nice. The female course record, I believe, was 8:03, something like so I beat it by about 90 minutes, which was a super cool thing. It is a tough course. I'm excited to go back and get that men's course record. That's my project for next year.
Well, if you will, can you take us inside some of the final miles of one of your wins? What was going through your head?
The most recent win I had was last Friday. I did an overnight race. It started at sunset, ended at sunrise on trail on a farm in the middle of nowhere. I won, which was very exciting. I was first overall. I beat the course record by 10 miles. Because it's a timed race, the previous course record was about 37 miles. I ran 47 miles with 10,000 feet of elevation gain. So a really exciting, I use it as a training run. All my races are training runs. That's a big actually thing for me. So I don't taper for any race. I never have, with the exception of like a road half marathon. I've tapered for those, but any trail race, it's just my second workout of the week. And for that's worked really, really well for me. I treat everything as a training stimulus. So in this case, this was my second workout for the week. I really wanted some good vert. I went in for the first 6 hours. Didn't really, I just wanted to go home. It was I don't like to stay up late. So this was not the the race for me. And so it was fascinating. Also, it actually pulled a very large Amish crowd. So it was interesting too because I was running with lots of Amish people, which was just a fascinating experience because I've never had that experience before. And it was really, really impressive. They can run very fast. Really impressive. So for the last few hours of that race, I was one of the few runners left. And that point knew that I was going to finish. And I had a pretty good idea that I was going to win. I did not know what the other runners had run in terms of mileage, but I knew that I still felt really good. I was able to talk, I was able to eat. And for the state that my body was in, I really actually did not feel that sore. The amount of soreness I had, I would say at mile 20 was the same amount of soreness I had at mile 45 to 47. The major difference was that I did start to see things that weren't there. So I did see the most beautiful flowers, and I wish that I could have taken a picture, but I couldn't because they aren't real, because they were in my head. They were so beautiful. When I finished the race, I actually didn't know I was finishing at all. I finished my loop and I ran into the arms of my boyfriend and I was like, please tell me I don't have to run another lap. The laps were about 2.5 miles. And he said, nope, you're good. You won. And I was like, yes. And so it was, I was just like, I was so tired. And I was so hungry. And I just wanted my race entry fee back, which is what you won essentially, was your race entry fee, which was $30. So I did get $150 because you do get some other race entry fees as well. It goes into a pool. So I did this for $150, which looking back now, it's like $150. But that's the first time I've ever won real money in a race. I think the another example, this is not a win, but a really, really great ending for me for a race was actually at a backyard ultra that I did in Pennsylvania. I just did that as a training run. I wanted to run 100 miles and that was it. And so I stopped at 100. I was the last woman for 40, 45 miles. And in the last yard that I did, they said, whoever runs this the fastest gets $500 worth of Lululemon. I've never worn Lululemon, but I was gonna wear Lululemon. So I ran, and my last mile, mile 100, I ran a 6:04, which was really exciting for me to realize I still had that in my legs. So that was a win for me personally. Got some Lululemon, and now I do wear Lululemon. But it was a good experience. But in both cases, just the exhaustion, it really, really messes with your mind and your decision making. And at that point, you just don't speak anymore. After a certain period of time, language is no longer a thing, and you just kind of exist.
So I'm curious that you said you were the only female left in that race for like the last 40 miles. So that means it was you and a bunch of guys who were racing for $500 worth of Lululemon. Were
Well,
their girlfriends or significant others, a little disappointed that they didn't get that gift card?
there definitely may have been, for sure. So actually, there was a larger cash prize, but I was not. For me, backyard ultras are not a great race for me. I do not like to run slowly for an unknown period of time. It ruins my training because it is such a shock to my central nervous system that it makes it really hard for me to recover and go back to training. So with I don't even get a great training stimulus from it. I just get broken down. So there was $1,000 cash prize for that. The $500 Lululemon prize, I was like looking around, and I was like, bunch of guys, they're probably not gonna want Lululemon. I think I might have a shot at this. I was like, but I would think their girlfriends might want Lulu. This would be a great win, but there was no way I was gonna get that.
Hey, I want to go back to that hallucination real quick. I thought for sure you were going to say that you were like hallucinating that there were Amish people at the race and they really weren't there at all. So you threw me off with like the beautiful flowers, but like I was just expecting something else. I thought that was great. I've hallucinated once before, but it was like after a run. But I just thought that's what I was for sure was going to come out of your mouth. So, uh,
Well,
yeah.
I will say it was a challenging experience because running in the middle of the night with dozens of Amish men, there are a lot of cultural differences there. And they were never going to tell me, oh, on your left, I'm here. So instead, in the middle of the woods, this person dressed mostly in black would like zip by me and it would scare the living daylights out of me. I just would lose it. And so that was for several hours. I was having these crazy heart rate spikes from people just whizzing by me because I would not know that they were there.
All right. So we've talked about some of your recent successes, and your first ultra was on the rocks in 2024 that you talked about. So in the matter of just 2 years, you went from never having done a real trail race to winning and setting course records just about every time you toe the line. So what do you think changed in your training or in your mindset over that time?
That's a great question. I think I had an unbridled commitment to what I do. Running is a really important part of my life, and pretty much nothing can get in the way of it. I follow through with training. I coach myself. If I give myself a workout, I don't force myself to do that workout. If the day comes around and it doesn't feel like it's what I should be doing, I will change it and make it whatever I need it to be, as long as I'm still getting a workout in. My overall commitment to myself isn't that I have to do the thing I wrote down. It's that I get at least two different types of stimuli a week for running, and then I have a lot of quality volume. A major difference in how I train now from how I used to train is that I'm in the gym 4 to 5 times a week. I am doing a lot of hill training and I do lots of strides. So, for example, today I had my workout in the morning, means I always have a double in the evening. In my evening double, I threw in 12 by 20-second hill strides. Not super hard, but it's a great stimulus. And if I'm doing that 2 to 3 times a week, I find that my running economy is so much better, but I don't get broken down from it. The other thing I started to do was actually race. I had a big fear of racing. And it's because I had a fear of failure. I had this idea in my head that I had to be number one or not do it. And I struggled with that on roads in road racing because it's just so competitive. And I ended many, many races in tears for that reason. And I don't want to cry at the end of a race. I don't want to cry at all. I've never, ever felt that way about trail running. In trails, it's expected that you will have your DNF. In fact, it needs to happen. All the most incredible athletes in the world have their DNFs, and it's a rite of passage, and you learn a lot from it. So, my perspective on success in running has really changed, and that has driven my ability to push myself to do really hard things because I don't fear the outcome. I also attribute my success over the past few years to seeking out the pain cave. I've only experienced the pain cave once. And I know that because now that I have experienced it, I realize that all the other times I thought I was in the pain cave, I wasn't. For our listeners who don't know what that is, it's coined by Courtney DeWalter, and you should know what it is. It's very important. It's a great part of running. In fact, it might be the best part of running. You imagine that you have this little pickaxe and you're picking away at the cave, which is everything that sucks about the situation you're in, and pulling yourself out of that space. That's the win. I experienced that running 100 miles around the Franklin and Marshall track. I was in the fetal position. I thought I had rhabdo. I'd never run a real ultra distance. I mean, not to diss the 50K. 50K is my favorite distance, but I'd never actually gone beyond that. And so I went and I ran, and it really, really hurt. And getting up was so hard, but knowing I could get up and keep going, that that left me to be a runner who knows not only what hard work is, but also that you can, in fact, get up when it is challenging. And so I have used that same mindset in other races. With Come on Armageddon, I never was in the pain cave. It was super hard and super unpleasant for the entire race for the most part, but I was never actually in the pain cave. If I hadn't experienced, though, I would have thought I was. So I also attribute a lot of the progress I've made to that mindset. I also have done a lot of road style training. So my half marathon time is probably better than it's ever been. I haven't run a half marathon, so I don't know for sure. But when I ran a half marathon last, I ran a 125. I predict now I'd be closer to breaking 117 probably, just from where my training sits. And just focusing on that style of fast training has translated really well to trails because if I just add in some vert and some experience on some technical terrain, then I have the top end speed, but I also have the mountain leg strength. So a little bit of a long answer, but those are the factors that I think have contributed most to where I am today.
Chris, not that you and I are in competition, but with Maeve, but she would beat us both in a half marathon as well. Okay. I just want to throw that out there too.
Well, but I haven't run that time yet. We're gonna see in November. I'm running Philly.
Oh, okay.
Oh, awesome.
So we'll see.
All right. Sorry, Katie. I had to jump in there with that real quick.
That's fine. So, Maeve, what would you say is your favorite workout or your go-to workout?
Oh, I love this question. Okay, so I have two favorite workouts. The first would be any time where I get to run a set number of minutes and do sets of those. So instead of most of the time, people focus on mile, 800 meters, 400 meters, 200, so forth. I really love focusing more on 5 to 6 minutes. So I will do, let's say, 6 by 6 minutes at goal half marathon pace with a 2 minute recovery in between and bookend that with 6 by 20 second strides. And then that same day, I'm going to go find a hill somewhere and run up and down it 10 times at what would probably be equivalent to my threshold heart rate. Another workout I love to do, and this is going to be familiar for anyone who likes David Roche, but running up a very steep hill hard and then running down really hard. You get that eccentric muscle contraction. You are loading your muscles. You're basically teaching your muscles to accept the the trauma of a descent, because the descents are really what make an ascent quite challenging. You destroy your legs running down hard, and people often forget that. That's another one of my favorite workouts to do. Anytime that I can find an undulating area, something with really interesting topography where there's a lot of up and down. I'll also do runs where I just take all the hills hard and all the flats and downs easy. That's a great run. That's a great workout because you can do it in a variety of places, especially if you're traveling. And then I try to incorporate strides a few times a week. But definitely 5 by 5 minutes, 6 by 5 minutes. I did a workout the other day I loved, which was 1 minute basically repetition pace, so very very fast. You're looking at faster than 3K pace. For me that'd be like 5 minute mile maybe. So 1 minute on, 1 minute off, and then 2 minutes like your interval pace, which is closer to, like, for me would be like my goal 5K pace, essentially, in theory. I'm terrible at 5K, so you won't be seeing that. And then 3 minutes, a pace that's a little bit slower, and then do 5 sets of those. So you're doing the same time on that you do off. That may or may not have made sense to everyone, but it's basically one, two, three, 3 to 5 sets of those with the same time off that you have on. And just if it's a shorter time, you run faster. And it's great. I did like a half marathon style workout with that, and it was very, very hard. So that's another favorite of mine as of yesterday.
I think it's great hearing you explain these difficult, challenging workouts and then like throwing the paces out there as well. And then seeing Katie's reaction to the paces that you're talking about hitting. It's entertaining me. I know our listeners can't
Yeah.
see Katie's face. There's a lot
Well,
of like confusion yet respect behind that look, and it's just like, wow, those paces are legit.
yeah, well, I it is all respect and it's like admiration and awe. It because she said something. It was the first time she said something was about like a six pace where you were running a 6:04 pace or something. And I was like, I can't even do that for 1 mile. Like, if you told me to go run a mile right now, I can't do 6:04. Like, it just doesn't seem to be fair that you can do that on like the trail or up a hill or I don't know. You said 5 minute pace just a second ago, and I was like, in my car, maybe,
Well, I
anyway.
will say, another, I have gotten there pretty recently. If you looked at me as a runner even 6 months ago, you'd be talking to a very different runner. I'm such a stronger runner than I was when I was running Fire on the Mountain. And a lot of that is consistency, but it's also just putting myself out there. And I run races again, like it's a workout. So I paced someone
Yeah.
recently for a road 5 miler. I was like, great, this is a tempo run. I can pace them and I can treat it as a tempo effort, and I know I'll finish because I have the commitment of pacing someone else, and it's a great experience. So also in those instances, I realize that I am a much stronger runner than I sometimes give myself credit for, and that's true of all of us. It seems that there is a assumption to be humble all the time about running. And I think that's also particularly true with women. And it's good to be humble. Being humble is a great quality, but it's also okay to run sometimes and think, man, I'm hot shit. Like, I got this. I got this for myself. And that could be, by the way, running a 9:30, 10:30, 12-minute mile. I mean, I think the person who is the DFL of the race, they are the coolest person. They are the best person on the trail. They're so much cooler than me. They're so much cooler than any of us. They were out there longer than all of us. And by the time they hit all the aid stations, people were like, I want to go home. and they still finished. And what's even more incredible about that person is they're going to go back and do another race. So it's all perspective, but whatever pace you're running, if it's effort and you're putting yourself out there, I mean, that's incredible.
Well, I completely agree. That's one of the most beautiful things about running is that everybody gets to like set their own goals, and your goal might not be this. I can't set the same goals as you're setting. And you're talking about trail, and I'm also over here like, oh gosh, no, that doesn't sound fun. But we all get to set our own goals and try to be a little bit better if we want to be, or try to hit a pace, maybe not 5-minute flat pace for me, but, you know, trying to hit a 6-minute flat and a 30-second sprint for me is like, that's I've done that. I did it yesterday, but can I do it every time? No, it's not easy. So that's what you said is a great thing, whether it's 9:30, 10-minute mile or a 5-minute mile. It's all relative to what we're putting ourselves out there to be able to do and push ourselves to the next level.
So, Maeve, you mentioned that you have Philadelphia Half coming up in November. What are some of the other races you have on the calendar for the rest of 2026?
Yes, I have many, many races coming up. It's very exciting. So I have well, I'll start with the most competitive one. I'm running in the elite field for the first time, which is, you know, I'm actually just looking forward to it. I wouldn't even say it's daunting because I get to, for the first time, run alongside these just incredible women who have running careers that are far beyond what I've experienced yet. And I get to learn from them and talk to them and pick their brain. And that's amazing to me. I mean, they are just unbelievable athletes. And I get to run with them, which is so exciting. So that is at Climate for Climate, also hosted by the Running Kind. Again, the Running Kind hosted Come on Armageddon. That's a 25K. It has over 5,000 feet of elevation gain. So essentially, what you do is you go up, you go down, you turn around, and you do it again. So that first up and down is hard, but it's the second one that really gets you because if you went too fast on the descents, then you've destroyed your quads. And so that'll be a super interesting experience for me. I know that the women's course record, I believe, because they posted it yesterday or the day before on Instagram, was somewhere around 3 hours, I think just under for a 25K. So it gives you a sense of how challenging that race is. So it's really exciting for me to be there. I cannot wait. I also have, of course, Fire on the Mountain, which I will be doing. I am going for I really would like to break 5 hours. That is you've heard it here. I'm going to break 5 hours. We'll manifest it. So that's another race, of course, I'm looking forward to. That race actually has become a staple. I typically don't repeat races just because it's just knowing that I did it before and now I have to do it again sounds so, ugh. But in this case, that race was such a great experience for me that my family has already crafted this trip that we will be doing every year around this race. That's very exciting. I'll be there.
Babe, can I? I'm very happy to hear that, and I'm excited to see you come across. I'm gonna give you the biggest log I can when you break the 5 hour mark. But I want to jump backwards real quick to the race you were just talking about. So you're gonna line up with the elite women there. Are you going to kind of go out with them, or do you plan on like setting the tone, or what is your like, do you have a strategy already for that laid out, or are you just gonna kind of like you have been doing, go with the flow?
My strategy is I know I'm a really strong climber and I know that I can handle a lot of pain. And I know that running downhill is what tends to get me. So the downhill, if I lose some time there, I'm just gonna be comfortable with that because if I come to the uphill and I pass someone, that's great. It's quite likely that I will not catch them, and that's also fine. But my strategy is to take the uphills at a steady, hard pace. I'm going to walk if I absolutely have to, but I really, really am going to try to just keep moving, even if it's a bit of a shuffle. I'm happy to set the tone for a race. I'm happy to go out hard and then pull back. I That I have no issue with. I would like to get ahead of the crowd a bit just because I don't like to get stuck behind people. But what I'll probably try and do is I'll find trail buddy. So I'm going to lock in on someone, and then my goal will be to stick with them for as long as I possibly can. And if I get halfway through the race and I'm feeling really good, then I will dig into that confidence and push that pace a little. And if they match it, great. If they don't, I'm going to just keep going. If they match it and I still think I can push a little harder, I will. I'm really, I really don't see any issue with taking risks at this race because it's just a cool experience. But yeah, I mean, that's essentially my strategy, which is not definitely as detailed as a lot of people's. A lot of people go into a race like this knowing what they're going to do essentially from start to finish. I don't do that because no matter how much I analyze the race structure, when I get to the trail, it's just a different mountain.
So I interrupted your race calendar there. So what do you
Oh,
have
that's fine.
other than Fire on the Mountain planned?
I have the basilisk, which is in October. That is I believe it is 2.5 miles. It's another looped course. I'm really trying to get away from looped courses, but I keep coming back to them. And, but you don't do as many loops as you can. There's a set number of miles, which is great. Um, I'm going to do the 10-mile option. So I believe that's 3,600 feet of elevation gain. And I'm really looking forward to that because I know that that'll also be a really great training stimulus. So that's in October. I have the Philly half, really going to be my first entry back into road running in a long time. I will be wearing carbon plated shoes for that race, but only because they're free. Thank you, ASICS. But yes, I will be there. I looked at the times last year and I was actually kind of surprised. I think I might do pretty well, all things considered, for a road half marathon, especially one of that caliber. So I really would love to see 117. If I can break that, great. Right now, a lot of my half marathon pacing is pretty solid for my workouts. I'm typically looking around 540, 545 pace. So if depending on race day and how well the training I've done actually translates to a real race format, I think I'll be I'll definitely be looking at a PR for myself. But I could definitely surprise myself as well, which would be excellent. But also, it's a road half marathon and I'm a trail girl now. I also have never run a race with crowd support, which that race has crowd support. So that's very exciting. There's also a race that I am trying to remember the name of, Trail Jubilee. Yes, that's the name of it. It's a 12-hour endurance race. So I will most likely be doing that as well. As I said earlier, I tend to not sign up for races until very close to the time they happen. I don't know why I do that. It's superstition, but it's who I am. So even if it means I'm paying more, I still do it. It's ridiculous.
Well, Maeve, that is I can't even think of the word, audacious calendar. Is that the right word? Chris, help me out here. Like that is some
It's at least impressive.
impressive.
Aggressive.
Okay. Impressive. What does audacious mean?
Well, actually,
Like, how
that's actually
dare
the
you?
perfect word. That's the
Oh,
perfect word.
oh, that's no, 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 no,
Audacious is the
that's not what I was saying. Yeah, impressive is the right word.
No.
So,
Okay. Hey, audacious is an adjective that means showing a willingness to take surprisingly bold, daring, or reckless risks. So
so you see,
maybe that
spot
fits.
on.
oh,
I do
Yeah.
have one other.
see, look,
But
now it's just
no,
throwing more in there.
yeah, no, but this one, okay, so this one hasn't been announced yet. I don't even know what it's called, but I was
Wait, wait,
invited to
wait, wait,
do
wait. Okay, hang on. Our listeners, here we go. We got breaking news from
it's
Maeve. She's gonna
breaking news.
throw out her race.
Yeah.
Breaking news. All
Yeah.
right, go ahead.
Okay, so the breaking news is that there is a race that has yet to be announced, so I cannot say what it is called or where it is, but it is a 100 miler that will be next August. So this is 2027. So we're kind of pushing the calendar here. But I was invited to run that race. I'm really excited. The goal is to have 50% of the start line be women, which is amazing. So I'm very, very much looking forward to it. That will be my first trail 100 miler. And it has like 25,000 feet of elevation gain.
So it's not on the towpath. Got it.
No.
Well, I was going to ask if you've ever considered JFK 50, or is that too much on the towpath and road and not enough trail for you?
So I actually have considered it. And mainly, it's just that there's a lot of races that happen in November.
Right.
And it kind last year would have been my first year where I really would have thought about it. And by that time, I was like, no, no, no. This coming year, it would be cutting it too close because I have two races in November. Maybe the following year, though, I could see myself considering it. But it is a lot of like quasi trail road, and that is a type of running I am trying to step away from, though of course also running JFK is a real honor, and if the stars align, I will certainly be there.
Well, so I was actually going to comment that when you said that for this unnamed race in an unnamed location, the goal of 50% women is really impressive, and I hope they're able to achieve it, because I was going to ask Katie, do you remember what the percentage of women in JFK was? I know it was nowhere close to 50.
No, it's typically around 24 or 25% is female. Yep.
Yeah, so I mean I think it's awesome if we can get races where we bump that percentage up, because as Adam and I have acknowledged, there are a lot of women out there who are a lot faster than we are, and I love it when I get to race against them, and just I'm so impressed when they go blowing by. So I enjoy it. Doesn't
It's
bother me,
also
doesn't hurt my pride.
Well, and that is amazing too, because it is great to line up at the start line and see women. That's something I noticed at Come on Armageddon, actually, in general, not just for women, but I was at the start. I mean, I was right there, I was ready to go, and everyone was behind me. I was like, come on, guys, let's move up. You are here to do this really cool thing. No matter who you are, it's just awesome. You signed up for a 50K. That's amazing. So
To
it's
to be
tough.
fair, though, to be fair, they could have started an hour and a half before you, and you still would have beat them all. So, like, they were probably a little intimidated at the start line when they saw you there. So, uh,
Potentially.
well, May, from your circus upbringing to the Amish blowing by you in the middle of the night to carbon plates to mystery 100 milers, this has been a really, really, really fun episode. We have one more thing that I love to do at the end, and we call it the after party. So the idea here is I'm going to ask you, I think I have like 8 or 9 questions written down, and you're just going to give 1 or 2 word answers. So, like, for example, the first one is music or no music, and you just answer it, and then there's no explanation needed. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So the first question is music or no music?
No music.
All right, Garmin or Koros?
Horus.
All right, race medals, display them or put them in a drawer?
Put them in a drawer.
As Chris points to his behind him. Uh, you prefer hills or headwind?
Hills.
Least favorite race distance?
5K.
What's harder, the first mile of a race or the last mile?
First mile.
Coffee before a run, yes or no?
Yes.
Have you ever pushed start on a treadmill?
Yes.
Okay, we didn't talk about that all episode, and I was wondering. It sounded like you never used a treadmill before.
Honey,
All
I'm a
right,
heavy treadmill user.
okay.
Not as much
100
now,
miles,
but what?
no, 100 miles on a track or 50K on a trail.
50K on a trail.
Katie, I saw that face. She did 100 miles on a track before. I didn't know. Maybe that was her preference.
But she said 50K is her favorite distance, and she's talked about how much she loves trails the whole time. That wasn't even a question. Anyway, sorry to butt in. Continue.
All right. Last one. What was your favorite part of the Fire on the Mountain course?
The very, very disproportionately large log that was handed to me by a small child.
Excellent. Yep. That's so for our listeners that don't know, the tradition is at Fire on the Mountain when you get about what 100 meters maybe to the finish line, you're handed a log and you carry that the rest of the way. You throw it in the fire and that stops your time. So that's how we end Fire on the Mountain. All right. Well, Maeve, this has been really, really fun. I've enjoyed it learning about you and learning about your background and your love for trail running and just how you, I don't know, just I can't even think of what the right word is. But it's been a lot of fun. Katie, Chris,
I was just gonna say, well, we started out the episode with you reminding me of my childhood dream of flying on the trapeze at a circus. So I'm a little jealous of your experience in that, but also, yeah, just your refreshing look on everything and how hard you work, but also take everything in stride and just push yourself for your own reasons. I loved, talking to you and learning more about you today.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo the same things. Like this has been just amazing to hear about how successful you've been on the trail. I've enjoyed following along on social media, your success since we met at Fire on the Mountain, and really glad to hear you're coming back and looking forward to seeing what this fall brings for you.
Thank you guys so much. This has been an honor, and I can't wait to see you in November.
hey, and just for the record, before we let you go, Chris was also reliving his childhood dreams. He always wanted to be a lion tamer, and he was really hoping that that's what you were going to say you did in the circus. But
If only.
that's
If
right.
only, if only.
All right. Well, thank you, Maeve.
That's all for today's episode of Tales on the Towpath. Thanks for joining us on another run down memory lane and along the C&O. If you've enjoyed the show, be sure to follow, share it with a friend, and leave us a review. Until next time, keep your pace steady and your stories flowing.